G'day guys, welcome back to BMW. Today we're going to be doing the tow bar on this X6. It's going to be similar to an X5, except of course for the rear bumper, taking it on and off. I've already done the left hand side, I'll show you how to do the right hand side. Similar both sides. We're going to start with a straight pick. And we're going to pick the centre of these trims in. You'll need a plastic rivet gun and plastic rivets to get these to go back in, because you absolutely ruin them getting them out, as you can see. But there are some trims that some trim clips that you could use that are not plastic rivets that would do the same job. You just have to source those in your own time. Alright, two of those. You pull up this guard trim, and it's the 8mm in there. One of those we'll undo with our trusty Bosch IXO. There we go. Now, there's a little trim clip in here. Remove that with the trim removal tool. This is actually the large one, I should probably have a small one. Don't lose the centre of that. You'll need that. Put that away. Right, there's one 8mm under the bottom here. There we go. Now for the centre of this, it's a bit tricky. But you'll see this. So I've undone the two Phillips heads. 1 and 2, and undone a few of the clips that hold it on this side. It's a bit of hell getting into, but you can do it. They just push back into their respective holes. It seems like it'll never come off, but the truth is you just keep working at the edge here. You can see I've got that one out. What I've done is come around the back here, push the black component out of the way, just like that, levered it up, grey leg out from underneath it. Now this one I can't actually really get a good angle on it on the other side, but I can get one on this side if I just can see that inside there. Push it out of the way and then give the trim a pull. And after that, the whole thing basically comes away. There we go. Comes away one piece. Got the same two legs on this side. I'm going to have to undo it on this side too. Push it out of the way. Pull down. There we go. Now, we've got a new piece of trim to go in there when we put the tow bar in. Two piece there. That's a little beauty. Means we don't have to cut anything, hopefully. We'll get to that when we get to it. Now, what we're going to do here is just show you what you can throw away. You can throw this away as long as you've got that in there for PDC. It's exactly the same. Chuck that away. What I always chuck away are these black connectors. They're useless. I solder my joints. Bits and pieces here. You can probably throw most of them away too. I don't need that plug unless it's missing from the fuse box. Those fuses sometimes are already installed. There's a couple of black connectors in there as well. Throw away. Your wiring loom, your plug for the external and control unit. Keep your cable ties. They're useful for sure. The hardware kit comes like this. Immediately identify your 16mm bolt and nut and just screw that on. This one goes on the bottom side here, just like that, and we'll screw that in later. That's to take some of the loose play out of the inside of this when you put the toe tongue in. It's a bit of a hassle, but you got to do it. There we go. Alright, get your bolts, your nuts, your washers, and get these 4 tubes. Very important. I'll show you how they go later. And the last thing for this step, we're going to take out the tail light on the right hand side. Maybe in these videos, if I keep saying trusty Bosch IXO, they'll start paying me. We'll see how that goes. 3/8 mils, number 1. For goodness sake, don't drop these. Especially on the other side, where I've already dropped a few. Very difficult just to keep an eye on them, and oh, geez Louise, I dropped that one, haven't I? Oh well, we're going to pull this side out anyway. There we go. Ah, that one dropped right in there, beautiful. Alright, and this plug, you got to get your up there, right there, and pull back, give it a bit of a wiggle, and that'll come out. It's a bit difficult to get these taillights out after this, just because of this trim on the top here. You see it's in the road, but if you use 2 hands, as I'm going to afterwards, you can just pull it down slightly and pull it out without taking that trim off. If you want to, you could, I'm sure, but I'm just going to leave it on. Alright, we'll go next step. Again, similarly with the X5s and X3s, with this bumper, you have to get in behind it and pull it out from the guard here, and just get your pick in there and just push down on the bit that's holding your bumper in. I'll try and get a good picture of that now. There you go. That's it in there. You got to push down on that one with a straight pick. Let's go pick vision. 1, 2, 3. That one pulls out of its own accord. These ones I tend to lever up on. Okay, with all those off, we're ready to take the bumper off now. You don't actually have to get in behind that reflector as you do on many other models. You're just going to have to undo the plug for the PDC as it comes out. We'll have this bumper out. Righto, here we are with the bumper off. Put that on a stand in a sec. I'm going to take off the old bumper. The old one that we're not going to use anymore. Undone most of these nuts, 18 mil. Just pull it straight off, nice and easy. Put that to the side. What we're going to do is take our 2 side pieces here and put them on where we took that off. These external bits need to go on a particular side, and do the internal bits. I'll show you where they are now. Okay guys, to fit this bumper on, what I've had to do is jigsaw out a chunk of this trim here, because as you put on the centre part of your Towbar assembly, it just fouls on here and it won't go in far enough to locate with those holes. So what I have done is put the sides on. The outsides go top left and top, and the inside goes inside here, inside there. That's just to differentiate them, they're not actually for anything. And what I've also done is drafted these nuts on, and I've screwed in this nut just about all the way. Just need a bit of play there. But what I do is screw that in all the way, because as you put on this centre main section here, that will be right in the way. Sometimes if it's screwed out far enough, sort of right about to the end here, you won't be able to screw it in, because it comes in here and just wedges it, and you won't be able to screw it in. You have to take it back off, and it's a major hassle. So screw those inside ones in all the way, inside lower here, inside lower there, screw them in all the way, and just leave some play, because you'll need some play to, just about how much, some play to get the pins in and get all the bolts lined up. So we'll jigsaw out another piece of this here while being careful of the wiring for the PDC. I might even take that out just to be careful enough. Boom. Alright, and we'll jigsaw across here. Right, about that much should do. We'll put the centre bumper on now. Righto, we're getting this tow bar all bolted up. Got the bolts running in through that way, nuts and washers either end. And you can see through the centre there, I've also got those little locating tubes. In the past, what I've had to do with these tubes is just get on the bench grinder and just grind off at about 45 degrees on the corners, because they were really badly sort of machined, and the paint on them would cause them to be sort of not able to be put through this way. But a new development is they've made these a bit better, so the newer ones you could do much easier. The only thing I will say, sometimes you get a bit of bad stuff on there. I've had to just file off a bit of a dag on the inside there, just so I can fit that little locating pin through. Don't ask me why they use these locating pins. I don't see the use in them personally, but I'm sure an engineer will tell me different. Chuck on the washer and the nut. The torque specifications are in your tow bar installation instructions, which funnily enough are for an X5, so this is exactly the same X5 to X6. That cut there is working out quite well for us. We'll put in the top bolts here with washers. These are a bit hard, a bit tricky to fit, and this is why you need a bit of free play in the system just to get these top bolts in. So you can see I can't even really get the hole lined up there, but you just need to just play around with it. Sometimes it's even helpful to come up through the bottom. If you can come up through the bottom and you can get in through the top. This is even trickier on X5s because of the boot, the way it comes down, and the way you feed it in through the top. You've got to watch out for the head of the bolt doesn't scratch the bumper. Special boot. But we'll get this in when I've got two hands free. And we'll jiggle it around and we'll tighten these up just finger tight, and we'll torque them up. Good news with this, guys, is you don't have to cut any holes and you don't have to route any wiring through different plugs. All you got to do is come down here and pop that little bung out. That's where the wiring is going to go, and we're going to have to take out this little holder here so we can push the wiring through. Just start doing that. Gonna have to come up here, take out this, involves two trim clips, 1, 2, and the one up the front here is exactly like in the bumper, in the guards, where you have to push them through with a straight pick. I never even bother replacing that. It's really dumb why they don't just do 3 of the regular pull through ones. Anyway, that's that through. Taking that little box out requires 2 10mm, one down here, one over here. Might even have to pull out that with the trim removal tool. Pull up that whole box, and then we can route the wiring through this plug we've just pulled out. The earthing point is right here. That's a 10mm earth on the wiring loom. I'm going to take out 3 Phillips heads, 1, 2 and 3, and that whole fuse box comes out. It's got a little leg on in the middle here. You just got to pull it from the bottom, pull it out, and we'll route the wiring next. The control unit will go in here. Right, we'll do all that next. Okay, we've plugged our wiring in. We've routed the wiring, just sort of drafted it in to where it's meant to go around here. And in here we've taken out the fuse box. The locations for the 3 powers that you'll find on every Towbar, 3 powers here. Red black goes into the blue 6-pin socket at pin 1, which is just here, this 6-pin. Taking these out involves 2 trim removal tools. You get around both sides, just push in and pull them out. And the red purple and red green powers go to, red violet goes to pin 2 on the black casing, and red green goes to pin 3 on this black casing up the top here. Right, so to get those out, right, we've got both those socket housings out. In order to push your pins in, they push in and just click, but what you have to do is get behind that little flap there and pull that right up, because they lock the pins in. And when you're finished, just push that back down like I have, and the pin numbers are on the bottom side. You can't quite see them there, but that's 3 and 6. So pin 2 for red violet, pin 3 for red green, and pin 1 on the blue socket housing for red black. All you have to do is push those back in, and after you've done that, click. You can undo the 10mm on here. The earth is part of the wiring loom, which is just here. I'll put that on there. Do the 10mm back up. That's the plug for the control unit. What we are going to do is I've shortened that these can lines really short, because we're just going to splice them into the PDC control unit, which is down here. The wires are red, orange, green and green, and they're on one of these plugs here, this one here, right on the top of this plug here. Pull that out. You can see the wires in there, so we'll splice these into those. Brown blue goes up here to the plug which we pulled out of the right hand tail light. That's the tail light plug. That's blue brown just there. We'll splice that in, put them together, solder them up, and finally what you have to do, which is a bit tricky, is go into this loom and locate, there's about 3 or 4 different black yellow wires that correspond to this here, this little tricky one here. That's the centre brake light. What you need to do is, it probably requires 2 people to be honest, just to get a test light and just press into these wires, get into the copper with your test light, and have your earth up here on the earthing point for your test light, and just get someone in there to pump the brakes and just see if it flashes, and whichever one flashes, that's your centre brake light, and you have to splice into that. See, it makes it good too if you can just sort of single out that wire, something like that, just to remind yourself to go back to it later when you find which one it is. We usually do something like that. Right, so we'll solder all these connections up, we'll tighten up that 10mm, and we'll put this fuse box back in with the 3 Phillips heads, and we're almost done. Righto guys, we've got the pins in the back of the fuse box there, put the fuse box back in. The fuses are 225s up the top left here, 1, 2, and the 120 amp fuse is going down here, bottom right. Alright, we had to put those in, they weren't included in this one, in the X3 they are included. I've found the centre brake light wire with my test light. What I'm going to do is just splice into that wire by heating up the insulation with my soldering iron. Just breaking it all away, and then without burning myself hopefully, pull that off. There we go, that was beautiful. All that's pulled away there. Now for the PDC wiring, it's important that you put these can lines in separately, because I have shorted them out before and that can cause problems in your car. So just do them separately. The green and orange green wires on the PDC control unit, do them separately, tape them up when you finish soldering them like I've done there, and then go on to the next one. Alright, so you don't short them out. Also, on some models, this is the PDC control unit for this model. This is LCI, well, this is X6 or LCI X5. Sometimes you got the PDC control unit in here. It's the same thing, you just route those orange-green wires into the PDC control unit wherever it is, so the locations are either there or down the bottom. Finally, for the wiring harness, you'll find in the wiring harness a little plug like that. That's only going to be used if you've got comfort access and if you can't route this wiring through any other plug other than what the comfort access is going through. So I've only ever had to do that once. It's no big deal. You just have to find the plug that will be in the wiring harness down the bottom here and plug that in on this end, and on the outside of the car you have to plug that aerial for the comfort access into the plug which is on the outside of the wiring there. Just get rid of that cap, and it'll plug straight into here, and then you can basically take that whole wiring out. But seeing as we've got two plugs and we've got PDC, we don't need to do that, so it'll be sweet as just leaving it how it is. Don't touch it, it'll be fine. Just cable tie that up, done. Soldered in the right hand brake light here, and we're just about done. We'll just solder in that last can line after taping that up, and we'll solder in that centre brake light, and we're done ski. Alright guys, we're back on the outside of the car. We're going to put this external plug onto the rubber end of the wiring harness here. You can see the little cutout, the little T-piece just in there. That corresponds with the T-piece just there on the plug. You put those two together like so, where they go, and run the plug into there. You might have to cock it to the side because you've got this cutout here. You haven't got holes obviously, so I usually put it on this side here so that you can just pull up the flap when you need to, and it's not really in the road of anything. You could have it any way you like really, if you want to make it go down, or it's a personal preference thing, but I always put it that way. And we're going to run the bolts in with the 10mm plastic nuts on the back, just like that, and that'll be done on the outside. We've torqued up our tow bar. We're going to put our tongue on in a sec and screw in that 16mm that we put on earlier just to give it a bit of tight. And we've finished the wiring in here. Again, you've got your earth, your centre brake light, your two can lines go to your PDC control unit. You've got the three powers that go around the back. You've got the blue-brown that goes onto your right hand tail light, and we're going to plug the control unit in. Plug the control unit in, just push it in the way it goes, and you've got to lever up the little leg on it. Push in, push, and then you pull back on this, and that brings it in the last bit. Click, happy days, and you can push it into this housing there. Just make sure all your wiring's out of the way. It looks acceptable. That looks decent in there. Alright, I'll get that screwed on, and we'll show our tongue next. We're on to cutting this X6 bar, guys. What I've seen is you've got to cut from here down and here down. Easy enough. I might require two hands for this. It's in my pocket. Alright, that's one nice cut in the bumper. We're going to put the bumper back on, plug the PDC back in. I've run all the wiring through, used two cable ties here just to hold it onto the bar, and I've gone over the PDC so that'll kind of hold it as well. And that seems nicely fitting. Belay that last remark about having it go this way. Apparently it's this way now. That's the best way it goes on. So I'll throw this tow bar on and I'll show you how it looks. Righto, tow bar's back on, it looks pretty good. I've also got the trim here that we get with the kit back on. That's got a cutout already made. That's lovely, and we'll just push all that back into their respective holes. Just like that. I'll have to lever them up a bit, but that's no worries. Alright, we'll screw the 8mm back on that came out of there that we've taken off before. Might actually have to do that before we put that trim on, now that I think about it. And finally the tongue. Chuck the tongue in and just adjust that 16mm until you can get it in. It's just a bit tight. You know, you'll probably take a bit of paint off the bottom doing it. That's no worries. And you tighten up the toe ball. I think the spec for that's something ridiculous, like 300, 400 Newton meters. Just use a pipe wrench on here and a shifter, a big shifter on there, and it's just a matter of tightening that up. I usually like to make it nice and have the text facing so you can see it. And you just push the bumper back into the slots. You might need a second person to help you out usually. Push it back in so that you get a nice even edge. Put all your screws back in and you are done. If you need to wire up a 15 pin to 7 pin adapter, let me just click the link down the bottom, and that's about it. That's how you do an X6 or an X5 tow bar. If you have any questions or comments you'd like to make, leave them in the section below, and we'll catch you next time on BMW.